Okay, our stream. Okay, welcome everyone who is hopping on in the Facebook group, Sacred Sexuality, to join us live for our exciting conversation with Jessica Dawson today. So I'm just going to pull you guys up so I can see who's here, so you can be part of this conversation with us. Amazing. Okay, hello everyone. All right. So we are super excited for this conversation today. What I would love to do with you all, with Jessica and with everyone who's joining on. So say hello to as you hop on the chat so we can feel your presence. So if we just take a moment, we'll bring our hands to our heart. Jess and I were just having a pretty big conversation before we jumped on. So let's just bring our hands to our hearts and just bring our eyes to a gentle close. And we'll just take a moment to sort of ground and anchor and land in our bodies, because this is going to be a good conversation today. And just taking a deep breath in through the nose. And on the exhale, letting out an audible breath. And just feeling yourself settle into your body. Through the spaces of your body that are connected with the earth. So through your sitting bones, if you're seated, through the soles of your feet, just feeling how you are grounded and anchored and present and here and supported. And through the breath and through the crown of your head and through the ethers that surround you, just feeling how open and connected you are. And with that, we'll just bring our attention for a moment to our spirit teams, to our guides, guardians, angels, ancestors, light beings, star family, who are here with us and who are here surrounding each one of us who are together in this space, so that the wisdom and guidance that is meant to come through will come through for our greatest and highest good for each one of us and for all. And when you're ready, just gently opening the eyes. Okay, that feels good. All right, so welcome. So this is November's session of Sacred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. And so this, I really love this time where I get to come together with other sisters in business. It tends to be business conversations about how women who have decided to take the lead and bringing their feminine-based businesses into the world. And so in this space, what we end up coming together for is sacred conversations with women who embody and teach the sacred work of the divine feminine. So here we are breaking the taboo around all things sacred that were perhaps previously cast as not. So sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And we're talking about these things that are taboo before they were taboo, when they were sacred, because we are here to anchor that sacredness back into being. A lot of people will ask, like, well, what is this, the work of the divine feminine? So this is things like sacred sexuality, herbalism, art, music, dance, metallurgy, astrology, crystal work, womb wisdom, energy workers, healers, right? We're talking the whole gambit. And it's women who are showing up all in the name of truth, love, and for the greatest good of humanity. So part of my belief and part of my experience is that our world has been greatly disconnected from the sacred experience of life. And part of my mission is to be here as a voice of truth. So personally, I come through the avenue of love and pleasure, and to break the binds of what we've been taught as taboo. So we talk about sex as sacred, drugs often as Mother Nature's medicine, and music and dance as movement to connect us to our soul. So this is it, sacred sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So thank you to everyone who's jumping on live. And thank you to the divine and beautiful Jessica Dawson, who has joined me in this space today. I'm so excited. I absolutely have the most incredible time, and my energies, just the energy when I'm in space with Jessica is always phenomenal. So before we jump into the conversation today, I just would love to introduce Jessica to you. So Jessica is on a mission to unleash the dormant potential in light-working leaders all over the world. As an accomplished angelic Reiki master teacher, transformational business coach, messaging specialist, and intuitive astrologer with almost 10 years of experience under her belt. So this divine experience of holding space for women and men for over 10 years, almost 10 years. So Jessica combines her healing gifts with the passion for the practical to help support spiritual entrepreneurs and healing practitioners to unlock their unique voice so they can share their message clearly and step into service as the leader that they came here to be. So like Jessica's here to make an impact with a very intentional and expansive mission. So thank you, Jess, for being here.
Yay, thank you, Meg. Oh, I'm so honored and delighted to be in your space. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So yeah, I'm just so excited to hear your wisdom and hear really your story and your journey, and just to be able to have the space to just hear what it is so people can feel into the power of why it's such a transformational practice, bringing the feminine into their space. So I would really love to just start, if you would just tell us all sort of about what your sacred work is.
Yes, I would love to. So I work with healing practitioners, spiritual entrepreneurs, light workers, women predominantly, but also men who are here to step up and take the lead around a new way of being and living in our world, and to show the new way, which is really the ancient ways coming back around, right? So these are people with a lot of soul wisdom who know that they're here on a mission, and I support them to find their voice, hone their message, speak their truth. So unlocking these pieces of voice, of authenticity, of that authentic potential and resonance of the soul, so that these people, these leaders, can step up into the roles of leadership and service that they came here to fulfill, and that really this lifetime is all about.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And it's like, it's so what you do, just the way that you hold space. And when you use that word authentic, like the authenticity of being able to show up with what you came here and who you came here to be, is like, I really want to highlight that, because I think that we can't underplay that, right? Because this is often, I know in my own experience, was where I got sidetracked, and where the overwhelm and exhaustion and burnout was getting me, was because I thought that I was showing up in my authenticity, but I was showing up in what society had told me, I had to be showing up in, versus what was like my calling. So I think that this is just what makes your work so powerful, is you're bringing women back into connection. It's like that element of bringing them home to themselves, which, like, just the ripple effects of that. I mean, that's the tidal wave when women start to show up. Like, I just picture it. It's like this, like, love army of women, right? Who are taking this out into the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I would love to also hear, like, how do you see the divine feminine playing out through the work that you do?
Yes. Oh, this is the juicy bit that I really want to get into, because, one of the things that I think that kind of doesn't get spoken about so much, or is, we look at the divine feminine and we think that it's love and it's connection and it's pleasure and it's all of these beautiful things, and it is the healing and the priestess, and also it's the transformation, it's the energy, it's the power, it's that authentic process of life unfolding through us. And this is the part that I feel like we've been so conditioned to lock down and to shut away and to hide away and to never let anyone see. And this is the stuff that actually blocks us from stepping up into our truth and stepping up and really, like, being seen in our authentic self. It's all of these pieces that basically we've been shamed for and we've been told are not okay, that we need, that prevent us from stepping into that mission and that authentic trajectory of the soul. And so the process of the divine feminine is breaking down those barriers to shame, opening up connection, right? And this is the piece that I feel really called to speak into today, is around connection and authenticity, and breaking down the barriers that keep us disconnected from parts of ourselves, and therefore from connection and depth of community and love and authentic connection with other beings, so that we can all rise together and come together in this authentic mission and this authentic rising as a oneness, as a collective of beings.
Wow. I love it. And it's just like, I'm listening to you and it's like, you're just speaking to, I mean, I don't like to summarize things under things, but like when I think of the feminine, it's about community, and it's about connection, and it's about support. And like you said, openness. And I just feel it, like, it's like you're just oozing of the ways in which it shows up in your work. And definitely speaks to, like you said, the ways in which society has really groomed women to believe they have to show up, which really, in past conversations, I feel like we've talked about too, how, we've been taught to show up in our masculine, and often in this toxic masculine. And well, really, and in our conversations and through just our friendship and everything, these conversations about reestablishing like this new sisterhood, then that energy, which has so much to do with the way that you hold space for your clients. I mean, that's what you're planting the seeds for, because with that permission piece of being able to reconnect with that authenticity, it really begins to come through. Yeah, so that's so powerful. And like, I don't know if you guys are with me here, but when you're listening to Jess talk about it, like, you can just see how embodied she is in the practice, which leads me to the next question for you that I'm actually dying to hear, because I feel like it's always so powerful to hear people's the storytelling behind their own journey. But what has your journey been that really brought you to this? And I know we're kind of getting personal here, perhaps, but we're talking about authenticity too. So
yeah, totally. And I'm so honored to have the opportunity really to use my voice, right? Because just to backtrack it a little bit more around, like, what is this divine feminine piece before I get into my story is, when we talk about like taboo, the taboo of the divine feminine, well, it's been very taboo for a woman to use her voice for such a long time, and that is really the core that is kind of underlying my work. Like, we start to, when I work with a woman in business or stepping into her leadership, it's really around like, let's unlock that inner voice first. And it's not like listening to the intuition necessarily, it's listening to all the pieces that haven't been seen and that haven't been heard for so long, for eons, and giving them a voice, giving them space to be and move through our field, and to, yeah, like I said earlier, like, unlock those barriers and unlock the shame that keeps them all locked in place, so they can start to come into that divine union. So using our voice as women is kind of an edgy thing, but it's something that we're increasingly needing to learn to do in order to make our footprint, and in order to have our resonance and our impact be heard across the world. And so for me, in my story, my voice was so shut down. Like, so shut down. People would say stuff and I'd just like literally be mute, because I was completely frozen in fear. Like, I would not know what to say. It was that freeze response or the fawn response, like, yeah, sure, like, walk right all over me, and where I guess the point that there's so many ways, I mean, there's so many stories and like timelines and lineages of energy and wisdom that weave through all of our lives, right? But what I'm being guided to share today is that backtrack 4.5 years ago, I moved from the city where I'd grown up in Auckland with my new husband to a beautiful place in the countryside. And I was super excited because, I had this whole like vista ahead of me. I was going to build an online business. I'd been told that multiple times by people through different channels. I was like, yeah, really exciting. But what actually happened when I got here is that everything crumbled. I became so deeply confronted with, I wouldn't even say aware, because the awareness is something that's actually come more with hindsight now that I see what was happening. But I was so deeply confronted with the depth of aloneness that I felt, right? And this is the masculine piece, right? That just where the feminine is connected and the masculine has that individuated expression, and both can be in a healthy form. But this was not healthy. This was a very distorted, deep aloneness and isolation and feeling of complete helplessness and not knowing to who or to where to turn in order to find myself my way out of this really deep, dark hole. And this was like completely compounded by the fact I was in this new community. Didn't know anyone up here. I didn't have a job. I'd previously been a yoga teacher in Auckland. Any efforts or attempts that I made to bring my yoga work with me was like quickly shut down by spirit. It was not the way we were going anymore. And my husband was still working 3 or 4 days a week in Auckland. So he would travel back and I would be here alone. We didn't have any pets or any animals at that time. And I remember spending days just like sitting out in the paddock, just bawling my eyes out. Like I had no idea how alone I felt, how completely disconnected I felt. I was so alone. And the thing is that at that point, I really didn't trust God. I really didn't trust spirit, or whatever your own word for source, creation, whatever it is. I really like had a deep, deep distrust of God, a deep, deep distrust of myself. And I didn't trust other people either. So in all 3 directions, there was nowhere for me to go. And the thing that has really started to shift me out of this and begin to like open up, I guess, flow and open up potential and open up possibility and allow space for my soul to flow and to start actually taking the lead in my life, has been using my voice. And the first way, and because I want to kind of share some tangible pieces as well for people that are listening, like you can actually take something useful and maybe apply this to your own life if you're catching this. But, the thing that it begins with spirit, it begins with asking for help. It begins with opening up and letting down those barriers and, the protection that we have been holding around all of the pain that we've been carrying, and asking for help. And this is another piece of that like divine feminine, right? Like she's vulnerable. She can't do it alone. She's not meant to do it alone. She's a woman. She lives and operates in communion with others. Her genius is this connection and this community with other beings. This is what she weaves and this is what she holds. And so opening up and asking for that, like that help. I can't do this alone. Like I can't do this anymore. Please help me. Please show me the way. Has been such a big catalyst for me in my life, and using that sort of prayer as a means to activate and accelerate support into my world has been really, really key. And one of the things that I'm really being guided to share that's important for anyone to know, anyone who's feeling alone or anyone who might be struggling in relationships where they're not receiving the love that they need or they desire or they feel that they deserve, right? That we all deserve this love, is to ask for that love from spirit first. Humans, and this is like, at this stage in our evolution, we as humans are not always reliable. And I don't want to say that from like a negative point of view. I'm very aware of that. However, we all have our shit going on. And sometimes we just get so caught up in things that we can't be there for others in the way that we might like, even if we have the best intentions. And So if you're looking for a reliable source of love, a reliable source of connection, always go to spirit first. Ask for spirit first to bring it to you, to bring it and to seed it into your field, and to, show me what support feels like. Show me what love feels like, and open yourself to receive that frequency, to receive those codes, because it's all there on a subtle level, on a subtle plane, just waiting for us to open and receive as the feminine vessel. And once these codes, and so through that process of asking and always being responded to, so long as we open to it, we can start to learn that there is like a consistency in love, and there is a consistency of connection that is available to us if we simply allow ourselves to be open, and vulnerable and available to that. And through that process repeated over time, the codes actually start to anchor into our physicality, like into the energy field first, into the physicality, and to crystallize. And then through that we can start to receive that reflection back to us in our lives, from other people offering that same degree of support. I believe definitely there's so many times when I have reached out to friends as well, and people have been there. So I want to be really careful not to discount that as a gateway, or as another tool that we can use and another thing that is available to us. But sometimes if that's not realistic, or we're so traumatized that actually we physically cannot open up to that level of connection because that scares us, because we want to run away from that, because we don't know what that looks like, because that does not feel safe, then begin with the subtle, begin with the unseen, which is the feminine as well, right? And like allow that to nurture you and to bathe you, and to bring light, to bring relief, to bring connection. And so it's through that process over the last 4.5 years that I've got to where I am now. And it's a big part of what I bring into my work with women and men leaders, is really around starting to open up and have that authentic and honest conversation with God. And I'll even just go on to say that it's exactly that, like an authentic and honest conversation with God is exactly that. It's authentic and it's honest. It's not love, light, peace. It's like, what the F is going on? Like, I am struggling right now. Like, I want to do this thing. I know I'm being guided to do this thing, but a huge part of me doesn't want to do it. Or, I want to trust you, but I can't. Like, please show me the way. I don't know what to do. I'm feeling frustrated. I admit that I'm attached. I, wish that person didn't do that to me. I am in judgment of myself. I am in judgment of her. And opening up that authentic conversation, we don't have to hide these thoughts and feelings away, because that's actually the toxicity. And that's actually the issue that drives a lot of things. And so when we bring it out into the light of day of our own consciousness to be witnessed by an all-loving creator, by this all-loving source, this is where the shame breaks down. And we can, as I said, start to open up those authentic conversations, that authentic community, and that authentic connection. So I think that's maybe all for that ramble so far.
It was interesting as you were speaking, I thought, I want to stop and not stop, but but I wanted to ask you the piece, because I feel like there's a subtlety, and you kind of started to tap into it around that. Like when you say, when we have to just to be open, right? Because it's like we say it like, just be open, like it's like an easy thing. But I think there's like there's that subtle discernment, which you did start to speak into. I just wonder if there's anything else that you would want to bring through to explain, for someone who is just starting to realize or starting to feel, because I think, when you start to ask, or which is usually, when you were at that breaking point and you feel alone, and it's like, who else can I ask? We're just like, we're literally on our hands and knees praying. And then you start to see those synchronicities, or you start to see those answers. So yeah, if there's a way that you would speak into the subtlety of being open.
Yeah. What's coming to me right now is that we don't have to reach breaking point in order to open, but sometimes we do. Like sometimes, and I'm so guilty of this, sometimes we really drive ourselves to breaking point so that we will break down and surrender, because the pain is so much that it's too much for us to look at. And so we have to really like find ourselves driving, ourselves to such a point that we like cannot handle it, or we cannot stand it anymore, and we're almost forced inward to surrender and hand that over. But we don't have to do that. And I'm getting better and better at recognizing sooner and sooner that something's feeling off. Like something is not feeling right for me right now. Like, what is that? And even if it's just simply saying, something's not feeling right for me right now, I don't know what that is. Please help me to understand what that is. Or as with the case of receiving and opening up, it's like, I don't know how to receive. Like, I literally do not know how to receive. Like, please show me. Please help me to understand this. And this has been a really big part of my journey, is so much lockdown and sense of closure around receiving, like very, very deep. And it's actually been a big part of my journey this year, because as a child, I was told that I was selfish. And this was extremely wounding for me. And it basically has been, from my understanding so far, one of the biggest impacts or detrimental experiences of my life, because it shut me down from receiving in so many ways. And so I literally did, like, people say receive, people say open up, but I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, I don't even know how to go about that. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that feels like. And if we've been shut down from this, we kind of have no reference point for what that is. And these things can literally just be words. They're just words that mean nothing until we have that embodied experience of it. And so asking or admitting that I don't know how to receive, I'm not sure if I'm receiving, show me what this looks like, is the first step. It's the first gateway. We don't have to pretend that we know it all. We don't have to pretend that we even know what the heck we're doing, right? We're just like figuring it out as we go. We're learning, we're doing our best. So that's the first step around it. And what I would say as well is also just to have a level of understanding and compassion for the self around the fact that, like, literally the cells don't know this. Like, this is a new learned pattern. And so, the temptation could be like to get frustrated with ourselves for not knowing, but recognizing that we've never had this modeled. Oftentimes we really don't know what it looks like. So it's a very deep process of repatterning, and especially as women as well, where receiving is like really not been a thing. It's all been about giving. It's all been about giving. It's all been about giving. So the subtlety that I'm feeling is like, let the light in. Let the light in. Literally soften the edges of the body, soften the edges of your field. Invite the light to come. It's really a softening. And the thing about this is that it's very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable to be in that deep state of receiving. That is why I feel that it's difficult. This is the divine feminine piece, and that's why it feels scary sometimes to open up and to let the light into the places that we have locked down and that we have shut away. We shut them down for a reason, like for a very good reason. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so having that sense of validation around that, I think, brings a softening and can invite us to bring a little bit more support into that process of opening.
I see like the depth of programming in it too. Like, one, the way the patriarchal system has told us, like you said, when you were a child, being told that you were selfish, but oftentimes things we're told as children are also things like, do it on your own, figure it out yourself. And this perpetuates that drive of singularity, right? Of which pushes us as women out of our natural state of wanting to be in community. And so it's like this, and especially as all of these women and leading other women who were stepping into entrepreneurship, it's like we softening into, we don't have to do it alone, and an opening to that concept. But that's that releasing of that programming. Or actually what one of I was having an epiphany moment as you were speaking, just around the voice, and like, of course I know, like, and I've chosen to step up into a field that is very taboo to share my voice. But one of the things for me that has always been hardest is my messaging. Like and I'm realizing this is that hold of my conditioning that has been, this is an energetic block, which that I'm excited that I can now witness and know that this is something that I can go into to clear this conditioning that has this, like a stranglehold, clearly it's to some degree in my being over the clarity of my messaging. And so this is actually, and even getting to describe that is a really great way of being able to be open, was having that capacity. And that I always call it with my clients, the flex, like practicing recognizing when these realizations are being presented to you. So recognizing at this point in time in our conversation where it's like, whoa, I can see where there might be a conditioning, it's just then it's that feeling. There's that intuition, again, the feminine at play of just feeling into something, like it's energetic, it's not present. But that's one thing around the voice that I've always like, yes, I can choose to speak up and I choose to be present and speak to my mission. But I can see that messaging is always something that hasn't always come with ease and clarity. And I'm realizing in this moment in time, what a gift that it's this conditioning, because we've been told not to use our voice as women. So this is so huge. And what was the other piece that I wanted to bring in there?
Can I run with that for a minute?
Please. Yeah.
I'd love to run with that, because this is like one of the biggest things that comes up for me, right, when working with women around this, is this shutdown of the voice and how much that really impacts our ability to step out into the world and be seen and be heard and actually use our voice for good, and to have the clarity and the confidence and the conviction in what we're writing and really knowing what we're doing, because we haven't learned to use our voice, we haven't had the opportunity to use our voice in actual fact for generations. If we look back, or if there is a snapshot of people listening to this, the chances are that most of you would be first generation of women looking to use your voice in a new way, right? Most of our mothers and grandmothers were in the home.
Yeah.
And if the mother was, like my mother worked a lot, actually, she supported us as, she was a single mother for most of my childhood, but she worked in a company, in a corporation, for an organization, right, where she didn't necessarily voice her own opinion. Her work and her vocation was not around her unique work or message that she was bringing to the world. So most women that are stepping up into these places of power, positions of leadership, really are unlocking their voices for the first time in their family line. They're really authentic voices. And so this is new, and this is like a big part of what we do, is just starting to break down a lot of that conditioning, and through that opening up pathways of a clarity and communication to actually be able to get our voice energetically out into the world, which is the first piece. And then we understand a lot about how to use that for really like powerful impact and to connect with our audiences. And so it's just first like having an understanding and a compassion around that. In many ways, we are like 10 steps, 20 steps behind men. A man that would go to start a business, it's quite natural for them to advocate on behalf of themselves. For women, advocating on behalf of ourselves, it's an entirely new ball game. And you know, when you're talking, Meg, about, you know, feeling this, not quite able to get your voice to have that resonance or to carry as much weight and clarity as you would ideally like to, this is I'm, you know, tapping in and tuning into this on more of a collective level, and something that I ran a masterclass yesterday called the Magical Offer Masterclass. And if anyone is listening and they would like to grab a copy of it, like, please feel free to reach out. But one of the pieces that we spoke about was audience, right? And connecting to audience is so absolutely key for a woman in business. She needs to understand her audience. She needs to be able to speak directly to them. She needs to be in connection and communication and community with them. But because of the eons and the years of being shut down in homes and doing women's work, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to understand that that's the conditioned pattern, and anything outside of that is new territory. And so there's that. And then there's also the years and the soul lifetimes of persecution. We're using our voice to speak to groups of people, usually for the good, for the light, has led to disaster. You know, it hasn't usually been a great outcome, oftentimes life or death, or at least ridicule, being outcast from the tribe, from the community, and this kind of thing. So when we go to step up and use our voices again, this is where it's like all of that old fear conditioning comes up, and the you know, all of the ideas of, like, the world's no safe place, people don't like me, people are out to get me, you know, come up. And what can happen is people will water down their voice. They will water down their voice and attempt to try to placate all the voices and all the people. And what this does is it just, like, there's a word for it that I forgot, you know, it just, like, kind of disseminates the message in a very, like, sort of loose way, like a scattergun approach, right? Where there's not a potency to the message and a potency to the voice that's coming through, because you're too afraid of upsetting someone or hurting someone or saying the wrong thing, or basically, you know, being ridiculed for what they're saying, which means that the message doesn't have the potency or the trajectory or the power that it needs to really penetrate the market in that way. And so there needs to be this shift around the reclamation of the voice and the clarity of precision around who the audience is, who these people are, like, who am I really speaking to, and becoming so empowered and driven by that message, which is really just the authentic resonance and energy of the soul, right? The voice simply being frequency first, vibration first. Being so driven by that truth and that by that authentic power that's coming through, that then the rest of the stuff just falls away. And what actually happens is, contrary to what we might think, is that we, you know, that it's unsafe to be too big or to be too bold with our voice, or people won't like it. It actually, contrary to that, creates a safe zone around us, because all of a sudden we've surrounded ourselves with our authentic frequency, which means we can only then attract people that are going to match that frequency, and anything outside of that can't gain a foothold. So it starts to build that authentic community. And even what we'll see, and I haven't experienced this myself necessarily, but I've seen it happening out there in the world, is even what we'll see is, over a period of time, that community of a goodwill community will build around a person, right, that support that person, and that, you know, see the good in that person, and a supportive community builds around that leader. So that what happens then is that, if sounds a little bit weird, but if an infiltrator comes into the mix and makes a horrible comment, or something like that, a troll comes through, or someone who's just out to get a bite or a trigger, the community will shut it down before it even reaches the leader. And as I say, that did actually happen to me. I remember this did happen to me once. And so where I had posted an angelic Reiki training, advertising it in a local community page, and someone had commented about the real Jesus and something like this. And, you know, it was a bad vibe. And I was thinking, oh, should I delete it? Should I not delete it? Like, is it, you know, censoring if I take it away? What should I do? And I went back a few hours later just to have another look, and it had been taken down. So someone in the community had reported it on my behalf. So what I'm saying, to bring that into a big loop, is really that the safest thing that we can do, and the biggest part of this process, is unlocking that authentic voice, knowing who we're speaking to, knowing the truth of what we're bringing, and trusting in that and allowing that to be our safety and allowing that to be our security. Yeah.
I love that recipe.
So thank you for bringing that piece into the mix. I think that was a really important, topic that wanted to come through for the collective.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Like, it's like my field is clear. There was something else. God. But it's such powerful transmission. Obviously, it's meant to be left just right there. Because where I was even going, there was something I was going to add on. Oh, to that energy with the group. I just wanted to speak into an experience where I've seen this, and I want to share it because I'm sure other people have seen it. But if you ever have been in, for me, it's been in like in-person containers. Actually, that's not true. Also online, where like when you commit to a space that, with this vortex of energy, like as you speak of it, when everyone is showing up in their vulnerability, in their authenticity. And sometimes there's those people who will, I can't make the start date, but I will come in, 3 days late or something. And what will happen is, even though the community would absolutely hold the space and obviously welcome this person in, but I've seen in multiple instances where that person just couldn't integrate into the group. And for whatever reasons on their own, because of the energetic space that had been established, something just didn't, like, because they weren't there from the start, couldn't, like, their energy was essentially obviously told to step out, because people often will, what I've seen is people step out of these containers, which I just think speaks to the power of the energy that's established when people come into space like this together. It's just to speak to the energy itself, right? What is working beyond just the physical. So yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely loving this conversation. Where I would really like to go with it next is having all of that come through with such clarity, and you're just, the people listening are really feeling your messaging and feeling the activation of what you're bringing through, Jess, which I'm so in love with. And so with all of this and feeling the energy and feeling the truth really just move through in the conversation today, where do you see this going? Like, the importance of it, the importance of obviously your work, but also this as your ministry, right? Like, your purpose and what you're bringing through is beyond just you, but what is the importance to you and your mission, but also in the grander scheme of how it will influence your clients?
Well, I have a vision of a world where there's space for everybody. There's space for everyone to be seen. And there's space for everyone to show up in their authenticity, to bring their gifts. It's safe. It's safe to show up without a fear of persecution, of being wrong, of being told, off. That's my vision. That is really my vision. It's as simple as that. And it's a vision of safety, a vision of security, a vision of sanctity for everybody. And I know that begins by many leaders stepping into a place of safety within themselves. So creating a space of safety for themselves, and from that place of safety within themselves, being able to birth out containers, which are basically portals to the new world, to a new world. I often say to my clients and my, that your offerings, when you're bringing through sacred work, sacred divine work that is channeled, containers that are of the highest intention and of divine love, and unity and oneness, that these are the gateways to the new earth. They literally are the stepping stones and the portals to the new earth. You create that space that basically is an invitation for someone else to step into a new reality. Like if anyone here has stepped into a container, a training, a workshop, anything that has been about like self-development, for want of a better word, but becoming a better version of you, realizing your dreams and the person that you want to be, then you've stepped through a transformation, you've stepped through a transformational portal. And when we're holding these sacred spaces and these containers for people, we're literally holding and opening up an invitation for them to step into a new reality. Like we let go of an old version of ourselves when we step into, like you were talking about, these sacred containers and these portals. And often that's why you'll find that if you sign up for something, and even if it's not starting for a couple of months, from the moment that you signed up, that energy started working you, that vortex started working you, start moving through that initiation, because you're being spun and you're being woven into a new person. You're becoming a new person. And this is how, with multiple containers popping out all over the world, we're creating the new world. We're creating these new stepping stones to light. And so that's the process that I see. And that's what we're doing as sacred leaders all over the globe. So I don't know if that actually answers the question, but that came through. And for me, that is the potency and the glue, the everything of what I do.
Yeah. This is what I love about getting to have these conversations, with other like-minded women, and why this conversation, like just about the sacred, right? Like understanding and also just seeing the other individuals out there with that shared vision, like I know we all have them, they're unique and a little bit different, but I feel like the foundation of it is this shared intention of, and often referring to it as like the new earth or heaven on earth or whatever it is that we're bringing, but a vision of a way of living that is different from what we've known. And it just feels so good knowing that there are other women out there with such devotion. And that piece, when you were sort of sharing the recipe of coming into your authenticity, and that when you said trust, that trust piece lands so deeply, because when we can trust, and all the other pieces, but get to that place, safety, obviously, where we can show up in our devotion to the mission that we're here to bring forward, and show up for ourselves first, then show up for our community. It's just so yummy. It's so yummy. When you had said softening too, I was just thinking like, oh, I've just felt it. It's like that pleasure vibration of like, just like softening into it. Like when we just like butter, like rich, luscious butter, and just be in life with that, or that way. This was so fun, Jess. Thank you so much for being here. Can you, for the people who are really vibing with your energy today, can you tell everyone where they can find you? So just dropping your socials, and do you have any upcoming programs, events that you would love to share with everyone?
Yes, thank you. So you can find me on Instagram by Jessica Dawson, BY Jessica Dawson. Or my Facebook page is Facebook/Jessica Dawson. Or you can come and find me over at my website, which is jessicadawson.net, or just reach out and comment, tag me in this video, and I will be able to connect with you. At the moment, I have just released, I just ran a masterclass yesterday, Magical Offers Masterclass. So it is really about birthing that new earth that I just spoke about, and how we bring these frequencies from a expanded source frequency through our physical bodies and birth them out into the world for others to step into this new reality, this new frequency portal that we've created through our bodies, and about how to connect. So I'm teaching you in that the 3 elements of a magical offer, that are basically needed in order for an offer to truly fly and find that divine timing, and co-create powerful impact with people on earth. So if you're looking for clarity around maybe where your offers might be falling flat, or just to get a bit of a boost, if you've got some visions or some ideas coming through for next year or anything, like, this is a really powerful piece to help anchor in some clarity around that and to crack open some potential and some new potency. So if you would like a copy of that, as I said, I did run it yesterday, just drop a note attached to this video or reach out to me. My email is also jessica@jessicadawson.net. And in the new year, I'm going to have a new masterclass coming up called Reclaim Your Power and Shine. And this is going to be very much about for the woman who's really wanting to step out into the world, but as you know, as I said, like, finding it hard to move out against that conditioning that says keep it all inside, and really wants to find a way to break through and free into the light. So I'm not actually sure what the best way. Come and follow me somewhere, and then in the new year, when I open that up, you will see it advertised, or you can just drop me a DM and I'll make sure that you're on the list, and I'll contact you directly when it's available. I also do one-on-one coaching, business coaching with women as well as and men, and there's a lot of things coming through. I'm just going to mention them all. My messaging magic container, which is a 6 to 8 month program starting at the end of February next year. So this is very much around unlocking that authentic voice, finding confidence and precision in your message, so you are able to really speak it out to the people who need to hear from you, call them into your containers. We're creating through that a transformational container, transformational offer. So for those that are ready to step into their leadership work and desire a fully held container where they can move through that initiation process with a lot of support, that's opening. And I do have an opening special on now until the 10th of December, where it's normally 5,995 New Zealand dollars. So in US and Canadian dollars, it's slightly less, but it's now 4,500 New Zealand dollars until the end of 10th of December. So you're saving nearly $1,500 on that, plus I'm throwing in a bonus call. So if anyone is feeling the call to that and curious and wants to find out more, then please just reach out to me, and I'll make sure that we can connect you with those specials before they finish.
Amazing. And I can vouch for the work with Jess. She's just moved me into such, it's like precision is definitely the word to use. Like, working with you in the one-on-one sessions brings through crystal clear precision, clarity, where going in there wasn't. Has always been able, when I've had those blocks, I've always gotten to the other side through the sessions with Jess. And we always joke, because it's almost like, it's just space holding and just having someone else with that external perspective, and the questioning that our inner voice is blocking. It comes down to like that messaging, even just in terms of like our internal conversations, which is, it's incredibly valuable, these sessions with Jess. So if you are interested, I definitely recommend you get in touch. Thank you, Jess, for just being the incredible woman that you are. Thank you for your devotion to your mission. Thank you for being such an incredible light leader here on this planet. Thank you for being one of my angels on earth. I'm so grateful for you. And it's been such an honor to hold space for you to just bring through these transmissions of yours, and your voice. I love you, woman.
Oh, I love you too. And thank you so, so much, Meg, for holding that space and having me on here. It's been such a joy. I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for all your support.
You're welcome. And thank you to everyone who has held the space with us today. Thank you, Jess and Kylie, and who else is here? Emily. Oh, Emily's bringing through so much energy, sending so much love. And Honey, I saw you on here earlier. So thank you to you beautiful souls who could come and be here in this space with us. We love you guys so much. All right. So stay in touch. Come back next month in December for another incredible session with another incredible woman who's making wild moves in the world. And next week will be a live, one of just my lives I'm going to bring through. I believe I am going to be talking about a little bit about orgasms. I've been hearing a lot of women talking about, feeling like they need to have a certain type of orgasm. Like now we're all of a sudden going to shun certain types of orgasms. So we're going to bring through a little bit of clarity around that, and about how we can, we need to just embrace the way that our body and our pleasure moves through us. So next week's conversation is going to be amazing. So come and join me next Wednesday for that. So thank you to everyone. We will see you again soon. And Jess will be in touch for those of you who are interested in the masterclass. So take care. Have a beautiful day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. All my love. Bye, Jess.
Bye.